Hello and welcome to our review of the Mamiya 645 AF. This is a medium format camera that takes digital backs and takes film backs. So it shoots negative 6 centimeters by 4.5 centimeters, which is kind of like the entry size for a medium format. It's relatively new. This camera has all the modern features that you can think of. It has a focal plane shutter. The shutter goes from 30 seconds to 1/4000th of a second, which is what modern DSLRs can capable of. So it's a very flexible camera. It has an array of lenses, prime lenses that have like wide aperture as 2.8. There is an 80 1.9. That's the fastest lens that this system offers. This camera can take all the manual 645, the Mamiya M645 lenses, the older manual focus, manual aperture. This camera has electronic aperture control, so it's controlled through the camera. So this is a very flexible camera, and it's very modern, and you can shoot it in daylight and when it's darker. If you have like faster film like the Cinestill 800, and I was able to get very good results, sharp results, because of the good handling of the camera at even 1/20th of a second. So that makes it very flexible and versatile. Unlike a lot of other medium format cameras, the 6x7s and the RB I had, a Mamiya RB 6.7, and one of the problems is that you cannot go on like lower shutter speeds unless you have a tripod, but this camera is very hand-holdable. The form factor is really good. This camera has exchangeable backs. Okay, so let's take a look at the how to load film. So this has a cassette. So this camera has a cassette, as you can see here. It's very easy and simple to load. So one side you have a film arrow, of course, that goes on the top always. So you put the film this way and you release the guide, and the empty spool, as you can see, it has like an arrow and SPL writing over here. So you put the empty spool on this side and then take the film from one side all the way around, very much like other medium format cameras. You put it in and you start rolling. One of the benefits of this camera is that it's automatic, so you don't have to line this arrow with anything. The camera is smart in figuring out like where the film starts. So once you get it like nice and tight here on the guide, then you put it in the camera. So when you put it in, you release until it clicks, and then close the door. You reopen the door by pressing this down and this one up, like so, and then it pops open. Same thing with if you want to take the digital back off, there is the same kind of release mechanism. You push one button down and the other one up, and then you take the back off. And if you can see here, the camera has a safety mechanism that it takes up the mirror and the shutter away, so you wouldn't be able to ruin it or touch it by mistake. So to put it back on, You hook it up from this side first, and then you push it gently until it clicks. Okay, so let's take you through a tour over this camera. So this camera takes 6 AA batteries, and they're hidden in this compartment. You twist and pull, and you have 6 AA batteries, and I have the rechargeable ones in loop, and these are kind of like affordable, so I got the rechargeable ones so I wouldn't have to change it. And then it goes up here, you twist and lock it. This is a tripod mount. There is a battery for the back, a separate battery that helps the back, kind of powers the back, and these batteries power the camera. So if we look at the buttons, there is a mirror up button right here. If you click it, then it takes the mirror up. If you release it, it takes it down. There is a PC sync port. This is the lens release button. This is the your metering modes. There is like, this is an average, a spot. So there is average, center weighted, and spot. And even like with the average, I've seen that it tends to focus the metering more in the center. And there is like a lock right here, so you can move. This is diopter adjustment knob. So that's it for this side. This side, there is like exposure compensation dial. This is the ISO set dial. So if I turn it on, you can see that it says ISO 400 right here, and it says the film if it's 120, and this is the frame counter. These are up, like up and down. If you want to set the ISO of the film, you click both at the same time until the ISO starts to flash on and off. Then you can raise the ISO or lower the ISO. When you're done, you press both again, and now you're on. There is a button here that closes off the viewfinder. Okay, this button closes off the viewfinder, so you would prevent light leaks if you're making long exposure. Okay, this is the mode dial. You have timed exposure, like bulb mode, and you have here, this camera is really good. It has like a screw-in cable release. It also has its proprietary cable release that you connect it through here. Okay, there is the X sync setting, and it syncs at 1/125th of a second for flash sync speed. But you can connect the older Mamiya leaf shutter lenses that can sync up to 1/500th of a second, or you can get the newer Schneider lenses that can sync up to 1/1600th of a second. But the problem is you have to get the newer body, the AFD3, because the older bodies do not take the leaf shutter lenses. I think the phase 1 and the AFD3. You have the manual mode, the timed value, the shutter speed, if you want to set the shutter speed, shutter priority and aperture priority, and full auto and full program mode. This is the dial lock, and here you have the drive modes. This is locking the camera, just turning it off, and single shot or continuous shots. This is the light that turns on the LCD light. These are like the functions that you can set, and this is a set button so you can control the menu. This is the AEL lock, the exposure lock. Okay. So this is how the autofocus sounds. It has like one autofocus point, which is in the center. And it's kind of funny that you see the modern cameras have like 400, 600 autofocus points, but this has one autofocus point, and it's pretty accurate and snappy, and it focuses somehow in low light. So you only need this one focus point in the center and you're good. So this button controls the multiple exposure and the bracketing. So bracketing, multiple exposure, and the timer. And the timer, funny enough, you can set it 30 seconds, 10 seconds. 10 seconds is the default, or 9, 8, any kind of value, which is kind of rare in these in any camera for that matter. So that's pretty much it. The camera is very simple to operate, and the viewfinder is super bright and is huge. And this camera is a joy to use. But one thing to note, this camera is very heavy. You will not believe how heavy this camera is. I used to have an RB, and I sold it because it was pretty heavy and cumbersome to carry around. This is not cumbersome to carry around. It feels like a modern DSLR, and it's easy to carry around. The grip is very deep, and it's very nice to handle. But at the same time, it's super heavy. It's actually shockingly heavy. The first time that you carry this and you handle it, it's gonna shock you. Two buttons I forgot to mention. This one is the depth of field preview button, and this one is the focus autofocus drive mode. So it's manual, single, and continuous. That's it for the buttons. Okay, so in order to start for the camera to start rewinding the film, you have to take the dark slide out. It wouldn't do anything unless you take the dark slide out. When you take it out, you press the button and it starts to reel the film, and it tells you that it stops at the first shot or the first exposure. So now you're ready to start shooting. So let me show you how it works, the autofocus. That's the first shot. Let's do it continuous. The shutter is really nice. It sounds nice, and it sounds very. It sounds like a very nice shutter. There's a little bit of a mirror slap. I can feel the camera is moving a little bit in my hand. So that's it. When you finish all the exposures that you have, the camera is telling you that the film ended, and it rewinded it all on the empty spool, so you can take it to your lab. Okay, so what do I think of this camera? This camera is an amazing buy. It's very good for the money that it's currently going for. I was actually not in the market for it. I didn't even think about it. But then after I sold my RBA, I saw I was planning to get like an RZ67, and the prices are really going up. But I found this on a really good deal, and I couldn't pass it. So the lenses are also affordable. You can get lenses for $150, $200, $300. You can get all the set. There's a bunch of lenses out there. I heard a lot of good things about all the lenses. I have the 45mm 2.8. I have the 80 2.8, which is the normal lens. I'm planning to buy the 150 3.5 as a portrait lens. A lot of people say that kind of like don't bother too much with the zoom lenses. They're not very sharp and good. But Mamiya lenses are have this gorgeous look to them. The rendering, the colors, everything is good. So I'm in love with this camera. The only complaint is that it's only 645 format, and I wish there was like 6x7 camera that has the same handling and features and everything, but it doesn't exist. So we'll see what we can get next. That's it for this camera. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'm gonna share some samples with you that I took with this camera. And thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.